Hey everybody, my name is Rocketman, and today we're going to be going over reviews for submissions for the mix contest. For those of you that don't know, we have a mix contest running this year. It's open till June 16th. We gave you some acapellas to mix with, and we're going to be jumping right into it. So today's review stream is going to be a little different. First 30 minutes, we're going to be going over the demo submission mix, which you can find in your downloads package. And then the second 30 minutes, we're going to be going over your submissions, and I'm going to be giving you a review, and hopefully we can make your mixes better. So with that, let's jump right into it. We've got our Ableton session here. I mix out of Ableton. Whatever you guys want to mix out of, it really does not matter so long as you make your mix sound good. So let's jump right into it. I think the biggest thing for me when starting out with mixing is you need to hook your audience from the beginning. And I always like to do that with a very cinematic intro, also with a mashup, which is exactly what we did in the demo submission mix. So let's take a listen to it and then we'll break it down. All right, so yeah, really powerful intro. Let's break down what I did in this. So first off, we started with Slippy's The Valley. Like I said, I love the cinematic intro of it. And for the purposes of the demo submission, we needed room to have Dan talk over with his wonderful radio voice. So you can probably get into your mashup at the beginning if you choose to use a mashup at the beginning a lot sooner than I did. But that's the reason it's a bit more drawn out. So, for those of you that don't know, Slippy's The Valley is in A flat or F minor, which means our acapella doesn't work at the beginning, but if we transpose it in the bottom left here, I dropped it one step. That makes sure that we're in key, everything sounds good, and we can move forward with it. Also, make sure that your acapella, when you're making a mashup, is in time. So we've given you in the file name the key that it's in, as well as the BPM. Make sure that you use that so everything is in time, it all sounds good, and you can go with that. So I did almost no processing on this acapella. You'll listen to it. It's exactly what you get in your downloads package. I just chopped off the low end a little bit. I'm a stickler about that, but you can do what you want. It's the mix contest. We've had people pull off incredible things before. Also with that, Slippy's The Valley is in 135. So top left here, we got our project file set to 135 BPM. Something that I didn't know for the longest time, and I'm very glad that I know it now. Make sure that you unwarp tracks that are in time and in key with the session. It'll just make them sound a lot cleaner. If I were to warp this right now, 135, and I put this on beats, you're going to be able to hear that it's... Oh, not beats, I'm sorry. Complex. You're going to be able to hear that it loses a bit of that high end. It gets very artifact-y, and hopefully you can hear it on Twitch. Let's see how this sounds. It just doesn't sound like the original does. So if you have the opportunity to unwarp your tracks, like we have the opportunity here, I would highly recommend it. It'll just make your mix sound that much cleaner. So going into this, you have to use one of the 3 acapellas in your download submission. In the demo mix, we use 2 of them just to highlight different use case scenarios, but make sure that you get at least 1 in there so we can get you as a finalist this year. Big thing with the mix contest this year, we want to make sure that your transitions are sounding good. That's what a DJ does, right? You got to know when to play the tracks at the right time, and you need to make sure that your transitions are good, in key, in tempo. Want to make sure that that works. So let's go into the first transition. We'll listen to it, and then we'll break it down. So important note here, we built up a lot of energy in the Valley track. It started very, I wouldn't say small, but it's very cinematic. It's ambient, and then it goes into a really heavy trap drop, and we want to keep that energy going through the mix. We don't want to build it up, crash it back down, and then build it back up again. If I have a chance, I'm going to bring it up, keep it there, and then go down. So with that, we chose Skybreaker from Razahel. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I absolutely love this track, but it is a bit of an oldie on the label. No problem using that. It's a really great way to show off your knowledge of the Monstercat label. And so with that, I also wanted to bring a new feel to it. So we brought in the Vintage Morelli and Ariel Marin acapella from Dreamers. And how did I make that fit? We'll listen to it, break it down. Here we go. All right, so again, this Dreamers acapella is in A major. It's at 122. Razahel, the track that we're putting it over, is 140 in A flat. So we definitely need to warp it again, make sure that it's in time, transpose it to make sure that it's in key, and that's definitely good. So the other thing we have on Skybreaker, and I'll solo this so you can hear it. You'll notice that we're cutting the mids out a little bit. We're not dropping them entirely. We're just putting a little bit of a shelf on it to make room for our acapella. Because if we solo the acapella, we see that in that 1K-ish range is where the heftiness of the vocals is coming through. So if I didn't have that EQ on there, let's remove it for a second. The acapella just gets buried within the mix, and we want to make sure that if you're putting an acapella in there and you want people to sing along with it, they need to be able to hear it, and it needs to be at the front of your mix. That's what all producers do to make sure that you have a hook to sing along with. So make sure that you EQ everything properly and vocals punch through the mix. Another thing we want to see with the mix contest is creativity. That's one of the 4 things that we're looking for this year. So, on the build-up, if you guys haven't listened to it already, I'm going to play it, and I think some of you might know the sampling on this one. Okay, so that's definitely Marshmallows alone. But it's with Vintage Morelli and Ariel Marin's Dreamers. So we just took the end bit where it's walking on my own sound, and then we just chopped it up and transposed it to match that. And I think Ableton just crashed. So give me just a second to pull that up, and I'll answer some questions while we get Ableton back in here. But let's see, _Quantum. Spinny Boy, I will be covering that. That is actually used on Valhalla later on in the project file. It's a very fun technique that I actually started using earlier this year that I figured out. And I really love the sound of it. That's the whole point of bringing in your sound of mixing into your mixes. And we'll go from there. Let's see, what else do we have in the chat here? Yeah, creativity. So while we're talking about the 4 things that the judges are looking for this year, we're looking for mixability, and that's essentially how does the tempo and key work throughout your mix. So we want to make sure that everything's in time, and sonically we want to make sure that your mix sounds good. We also have brand inclusions. So if you don't know, Silk is now our third brand. We want to make sure that you show Silk, Instinct, and Uncaged. Don't just use one. You can use all three, and that's what I'm also going to show in this mix. So Ableton is back now. We're back, baby. Creativity we just covered, and then risk versus reward. We want to make sure that you're taking risks in your mix, but also make sure that the risks you take aren't just for the sake of taking risks, but they also have a payoff. And I'm going to show that off in this mashup here. So now that we have our project file back, I knew that the Razahel Skybreaker drop was a bit too old to really work in a mix contest this year, so I wanted to get into a different track. Pixel Terra's Omega is a great one, and we had to go from 140 BPM to 150 BPM. Normally, I would say don't change tempos with drums in the background and whatever. I personally don't think that it sounds good in most cases, but on build-ups, it's a bit of an exception. And let's look at this. So Omega, we want to make sure that Omega's at 150, and we want to make sure that it's warped, because we're changing our BPM from 140 to 150. We're increasing the energy, we're increasing the speed, and we're going into a heavier drop, in my opinion. So if we listen to Razahel with Skybreaker, so you'll notice that none of the lows were cut out, because that's the song that we're transitioning out of, and I wanted to still have the punchiness of the kick drum from Skybreaker in the build-up. But with Omega, we also use the build-up, but we have a very nice low pass, adding energy as we go through, and also a bass shelf on it so that we can cut out the lows, make room for the kick drum from Skybreaker. And then right when the drop hits, we cut out all of our EQ work on it, just let this track play out, and it makes a really nice, impactful transition. And the last thing we did, obviously we used Marshmallows alone, even though we didn't technically use it. We grabbed the melody from it and used that in our acapella, so let's listen to that. And just did a little bit more to spice it up. I used a low pass to, as we build up, take energy out of the vocal and bring it back up, as well as an overdrive, and you'll be able to hear it at the very end here. It starts to get really distorted, really crunchy, and I thought that worked really well to go into the Pixel Terror sound. Always using some reverb. I love reverb. I use it in every project. And so all together, build-up sounds like this into Pixel Terra's Omega. All right, so this is the mix contest, right? You got to go big or go home. I would have liked to have just played out Omega, but Nebula just worked too well over the drop of Omega as those little bass fills and little twinkly highs. And so I needed to use that in there to make a mashup that was different than what other people would do. So far in the mix, we've had a mashup with vocals over the top of another song. We've had vocals over the top of a very old song. We've had vocals emulating a different song to be used as a build-up. And then finally going into this one, we have a drop switch mashup, which a lot of dubstep artists use. It's a great way to make your mix sound different than the original while also putting your own style into it. And unfortunately, Ableton decided to stop working on me again. I'm very sorry about this, guys. But good news, I can still talk about more things while we get it back up. So I think the big thing to look for when you're doing drop switches for mashups is, one, making sure that the kicks and the snares all match up. You don't want to have like offbeat kicks and snares that go into different parts of offbeat kicks and snares. It just won't match up and the listener won't be able to enjoy it. The producer probably is digging it because they've listened to it 100 times over. But a person listening to it for the first time is probably not going to know what's going on, and they're going to be able to, or not going to be able to, enjoy the mix as a result, because they're going to be figuring out things as they go through. Oh, wow. There we go. And so as you're going through it, just make sure that you think about it from the listener's perspective. And that's something that I'm still working on as a DJ. I think it's something that everybody always works towards. But whenever you're making a mix, somebody listening to it is going to be hearing it for the first time. They're not going to know everything that you put into it. So you got to make sure that it sounds clean and there's very specific elements that people can pick up on. And back to Ableton now, because it is back up. We're now out of Omega and going into Valhalla. And let's see if this plays. Let's see. Yes. Gabri, I'm not sure how to say your name. I'm sorry. It starts with Gab. But yes, getting feedback from your friends is absolutely huge. They're not going to know all the effort that you put into it. You might have told them all the effort, but they're just going to be listening to it for the first time. If they enjoy it and they can pick up on the different elements that you used without even knowing about DJing or anything, that's when you know you're onto a really solid mix. And absolutely send it to your friends. That is what I did when I entered the mix contest, and it worked out. So be sure to do that. Let's see here. Are there anything else in? Yes. Underscore Quantum, OTT moment. I think that's a great thing to bring up. You want to make sure that the mixing on the tracks that you're using is very similar to one another when you're doing the drop switches. So if you think about it, I'm not going to be able to go from Pixel Terror's Omega into the Skybreaker drop because the mixing on them is just so different. If I tried to make a mashup between those two, I'd have to go for a very different style than a drop switch. By going between two Pixel Terror songs, I know that the mixing on it is going to be almost identical because they were in the same key. And with that, it's a lot more fluid, and you can have a bit more fun with it, and your listener's not going to be able to tell on the first try, if they don't know the songs, that it's a mashup. And I think that's when you're really onto something. So back in here, we now have Slushy's Valhalla. And for those of you that don't know, the music video just came out as this stream started. Go check it out. It's a very fun music video. But I enjoyed it. We employed the same build-up technique as we did in the Omega and Skybreaker build-up. So let's listen to that here. So let's go over that once more. We have a build-up. Nothing's changed on Omega, but on Slushy's Valhalla, we have the low pass buildup. We even have a volume automation so that it is coming into the higher frequencies and raising in volume. It just gives it that really impactful buildup, I should say. And then we cut out the drums from that little part of Omega, left the... It's just fun to throw in there. And then we go into Slushy's Valhalla. So, important to note, I needed to fit Slushy's Valhalla in, but I didn't want the full drop in there because it was just too long for me. I needed to get other tracks in my mix. And so with that, I cut it in half. I adjusted things where we needed to, because also for the mix contest, you need to make sure that you put your mix in 10 minutes. If it's way more, way less, like we're looking for plus or minus 30 seconds, we're not going to be able to get you a fair shot to get into the mix contest. And for me, that would be a real bummer, because if we have a really solid mix that's 16 minutes, I'm going to be disappointed that we couldn't put it in simply because of a time crunch. So make sure you get your mixes to 10 minutes. Use your time sparingly. Like, know that you only have 10 minutes. So if you're working on a 2-minute build-up for a track, that might not be the best usage of your time, or it may be. It totally depends on your mix style, how you bring in elements from different tracks, and we'll just have to go from there. Let's see. We might not be able to go through the full project file today, unfortunately. It keeps dying on me. But that's just how it goes. Also important to note with the mix contest is that anybody that enters has to use one of the 3 acapellas. So with that, same thing I said last year when you had to use tracks in a mix. Make sure that the acapellas you put in, you make them your own in the mix. And what do I mean by that? Make it to the point where nobody else is able to replicate what you're doing with the acapellas. Sure, I was just able to put over Another Way on top of the Valley. There wasn't really anything special with that mash, but it flowed really well. But with Dreamers over the top of Skybreaker, we put the Alone samples on top of it, and that made it very original, made it my own mix, so that other people couldn't replicate it. I mean, they obviously can replicate it looking at it now, but going into it, you might not have thought to do it. And so I think that's what's fun about the mix contest, is you can put your own style into it. We're going to try to get back into this demo mix right near the end, because for whatever reason, it just keeps dying on me. Let me see if I can actually just pull up the recording of it and I can talk through exactly what I'm doing. So, let's see. We had... Yeah, I need to buy more RAM. You're absolutely right. So let's see. We're going to add this. All right, let me know if you all can hear this, and hopefully you're able to.
This year, we've introduced So, even though we've provided you with 3 acapellas to mix, feel free to use publicly available and...
Okay, so you're all able to hear that. Perfect. Going right into it, coming out of Valhalla, and I guess if you haven't listened to the demo mix, go listen to it. It was a lot of fun to make. Coming out of Valhalla, I needed to get into a Silk track because I wanted to show off Silk. Problem is, Silk is more relaxed, right? It's more in that house genre, trancey vibe. But there's also some drum and bass in there if you dig deep enough. The track I was using in here was Vintage and Morelli's Beyond the Horizon. Absolutely incredible drum and bass track. And it fit right into the mix exactly how I wanted it. It's in 170 BPM. Slushy's Valhalla was in 150, so I needed to use volume automation to get into it. And going back, I forget who asked about it, but the Spinny Boy trick, I was using an auto pan within Ableton, ever so slightly offset, and raising up the timing on it so that it goes very similar to Halcyon from AU5 and Fractal. And it was a great way for me to transition out of Valhalla into Beyond the Horizon. So further on into the mix, let's listen to this, and you'll be able to hear Dan because it's baked on top, but you'll get more information that way.
Legally acquired stems. These are great ways to add that little bit of spice and originality to your mixes. We are looking for DJs that stand out from the crowd, so show us what you got.
And you'll be able to hear it here. So it's ever so subtle. Yes, DJ Big Homie Squats. I did use volume automation, not as much as I used the low pass on Beyond the Horizon, but I did use a volume automation because it's a longer transition, And again, don't be afraid to put those in your mix, but also know that they're going to take up a hefty amount of your 10-minute mix. And so going back to this transition from Valhalla,
a little bit of spice and originality.
Listen to it just really raise up and
stand out from the crowd. So
almost break at the end. So it's a different way to add energy to it and made it really my own mix. I love doing that. Something important to note in this mix, we also used the acapella from Stronger by the Fat Rat, and Julie and Slate It, I believe. You can use any publicly available stems. If you've acquired them legally, more than happy for you to put them in the mix. It's a great way to make more mashups and get songs to fit even better. So go ahead and do it. I love doing it. You should too. So yeah, Beyond the Horizon didn't have vocals on top of it. I'm a big supporter of sing-along mixes, as I call them. I love having vocals on every single track just for people to sing along to, enjoy themselves, because they love the music, but they also like singing to tracks they know. So that's what I'm doing here. Further on in the mix, we're keeping the drum and bass vibes going. I was really in a drum and bass vibe kick when I made this demo mix, which is why a lot of it is drum and bass. And that's what I want you guys to think about is when you're making your mixes, how can you make your DJ style shine through while still showing off the different brands, still showing off your mixing ability, still showing creativity. It's how can you put your own stamp on it. So let's see, further on, we then go into the Aruna and Ramsey's B track, which oldie, I used it in the mix contest when I competed, and so I had to throw it back in now.
It's your time to turn it around. Cracking the code, taking your aim, taking for gold. It's so far away, so fire and load. It's never too late. All that you found, all you see, circles it down on endless repeat. Starting now. What are you waiting for?
So with that, I was able to go from a more instinct drum and bass side with Ramsey's being Aruna, using the build-up from the Prof Prevent Soul Torque track, and we got a very liquidy but feelsy drop on that one. And so I kept the vocals going. I grabbed a very specific part from the Aruna and Ramsey's B track where almost everything is cut out except for a few strings and the vocals. And I was able to get the vocal hook to keep going through the drop of the Soul Torque track to still give it that oomph and that sing-along ability, since the original did not have any vocals on top of it. And you can listen to it here. So that's what I did there. From the end, if you haven't listened to it, we go into Coven's Good Enough. And finally, since we're starting to run out of time on the demo mix review, I'm going to go right to the end. And I think big two components that I look for in a solid mix is how does your beginning hook me and how does your ending leave me feeling? Was it a conclusive ending? Do I feel like the mix was supposed to stop there, or do I feel like it could have just ended on any song? And so we went from Coven's Good Enough into the acoustic version of Coven's Good Enough to give it that really feelsy ending, but also very definitive, this is where my mix is supposed to end. So yeah, it gives it a very feelsy ending. I love going from the original into an acoustic. I think it's a really cool sound. Something important to note, if you want to try that as well, you are going to need to warp the acoustics for most of the Monster Cat songs, as they're just played live. They don't really have a click track going on. There's not really a set BPM. So think that one through, how you want to get it done. It ended up working for me when I competed in the mix contest. I used that trick in the finale mix, ended up winning. You guys seem to really like it. So take it. If you want to use it, go for it. It's all yours. So with that, a couple questions that I see from the chat. Mastrino, how many Silk songs did you include in the mix, and how many do you think we should include in our mix at least? So in this mix, there are a total of 3 Silk tracks, one of which was the acapella from Dreamers. Now, going back to what I said earlier, we want to be able to hear your style of mixing. So I had a pretty even breakdown on my brand inclusion. There were a few more uncaged tracks, but timing-wise, it was split pretty evenly. I would recommend however many it takes to get your mix to have the brand inclusion while still having your style. There's going to be a lot of people submitting this year, now that we have the inclusion of Silk, that are going to go much more on that progressive house, deep house side. If you're going to go that route, we also want to see you use some of the Instinct house tracks, the Uncaged house tracks. How can you blend it? How can you tell a story with your mix? How can you bring the energy up at times? How can you keep the energy lull at times and make it really emotional? So I can't really give you a good answer on how many I think you should include, but make sure that it's present. Like we just want to feel that it's there. So with that is the demo mix, going over that and how I created it. So I think it's time that we get into your submissions and what I think of them and how we can improve them. Before we get into that, important to note, we're not going to be able to get to all of them today, but the ones that we do review, it's meant to improve not only that mix, but it is also meant for you to take my advice into your own mixes so you can make them solid and make them stand out to the judges. Let's see. I got a question here. Yeah, I did count the Dreamers acapella as one of my Silk tracks. How many different genres should be used? Again, that's completely up to you and your mix style. We're not looking for somebody that uses 15 different genres just for the sake of using 15 different genres. In the demo mix, I was primarily on dubstep and drum and bass because that's what I was really into at the time. Again, other people might be more on the progressive house and deep house side, but we just want to see the brand inclusion. How can you show your stamp on the mix? So with that, you guys ready for some submission reviews? Let's do it. So first up, we have a mix from EXO. Not going to be able to go through the whole thing, but we're going to start off, give you a little bit of feedback, and move on from there.
Maybe I just wanna go in the dark, see what I'm not, keep what I got, 'cause maybe I don't really know what I need, just what I need. Dive off the deep end, deep end. Dive off the deep end, deep end. I just wanna dive off the deep.
Oh, see, that was a fun switch up. With that, I think I would recommend teasing that switch up a little bit more in the build up, just so it's not so sudden. But that was a great way to add your own style to it.
Dive off the deep end.
All right, so I think this is a great time to talk about EQ. I love the vocal over those pads from Deep End. It was a great way to include your acapella, but I think that it was just a bit too buried in the mix for me to really get that hook on it. So make sure that you are finding where the vocals are really punching through. Put a little bit of a dip on your instrumental track that you're using and run with that, because I think that's a really solid idea. It's just not executed in the fullest yet. So you can go back and do it. With everything else, like going more in the low side and with a low pass on it, I think another great way that you can take an acapella, really turn it into your own and make it stand out in an exceptional way is try to follow the energy of the track that you're putting it over. So we've got a very low end heavy, like it's boo to do to do to do, and the vocals coming in real high and real loud and powerful. So I think what you can do to really make it stand out is like put a low pass, add some reverb onto it, drop the volume, and you can get the acapella to stick in there as almost like a vocal synth as it is in the original track, but still make it stand out in your mix. So try that out. I think this is a really solid start. I'm going to move on to the next one. I'm not going to be able to go over this whole mix, but yeah, I think your big takeaway for this is play around with EQ some more and really see how you can bring in more of a production element into your mixing style. So next up we have Gabrietiez. I think I saw you in chat, so hopefully you can see this. Okay, so I think the beginning of that was really solid. I like that you put an acapella, hooked me right away. You had a Reaper track in there. I might go for a different acapella. I'm not really a fan of pitching the vocals that much, but again, that's your style. If that's your artist stamp on it, go for it. With the drop, and I'm gonna let it play out a bit more, I think you're putting a bit too much into the mashup. Something that's really stuck with me is less is more. Find like one or two elements that you really, really, really want to push through for your mashup and focus on those parts. Just adding tracks in for the sake of adding tracks actually takes away from your mix and makes it feel very dense in a not so positive way. So I'm going to keep listening to it, but I think that's going to be the takeaway here for you. Yeah, see, that breakdown part I think is really solid. You've got a couple great ideas in there, and by taking out one or two of the tracks that's overpowering a couple of the others, I think you can really make that element stand out. Okay, normally I'm not really a fan of on transitions you just take the detuner and you just turn it down to the next key or whatever that you're going into. I think that one worked, but I think if you use it any more than once in a mix, it's going to stand out as just not sonically sounding good. So just take that with a grain of salt. I think that one worked pretty solidly. little iffy, but I think you can get that one to work. But if you do it anymore in the mix, I think I would advise against it and just find a more sonically pleasing way to get into the different keys that you want to. Oh, that's a great point that Dan brings up in the chat. Yeah, I wasn't even checking my meter over here. Yeah, these songs are definitely quieter. It might be as a result of warping and a heavy limiter on it, but something is causing your tracks to be quieter. So just keep an eye out for that. So I think one thing for me, like I was saying when we were going over the demo submission, I love being able to sing along to tracks, but if there's two vocals playing at the same time, I can't really sing along to either. So pick one that you really want to go for, have that be your vocal hook that drives that portion of the mix, and find a way to get rid of the other one. Yeah, so Gab, I think I'm just going to call you Gab because I'm not going to be able to pronounce your name. I'm sorry. But I think the biggest takeaway for you here is that idea of less is more. Find a way to get the elements that you really want to shine out in the mix and take away everything else and just let those stand on their own. And I think you've got a really solid mix here. Cool mash. I just think there was too much going on at different times. But yeah, check that out. Check your levels. And I think you're on to a solid start here. Keep at it. And can't wait to see the next version. Next up, we have Neo. Lots of three-letter aliases now. This is kind of neat. So, Neo, if you're watching this, fun fact, when I was making the demo submission mix, I actually had this mashup at the beginning of my mix as well, but then Soul Torque Solar Wind wasn't going to be out at the time, so I couldn't put it in. But this is a solid mash. I like it. I think with a little bit more EQ work, this can really, really stand out, but great way to open up your mix. All right, so let's break down that transition for a second. I think that was just a bit too dry and drawn out. Solid transition, nothing really wrong with it, but I think it just took up a lot of time in your mix that could be spent to making more mashups like that intro one. So think that through and how you want to keep the energy up in your mix, because again, we went up with the Soul Torque drop, We went back down, and I know Manifest is about to go to the moon. So find a way to not have as much of a valley when you're really trying to get the heavier drum step, dubstep, and drum and bass mixes going. I think you want to watch out on the low ends. That was a big thing that I noticed in a few of the other mixes that I've listened to on here. Make sure that when you're coming out of one song and going into another, only one of them has their low end playing. Otherwise, you're going to get a very muddy bass sound, and it's not very pleasant. Great way to look at it to make sure that you're not getting that. Check out your EQ on whatever DAW you're using, and if there's like, if there's like two big spikes in your bass range, it's probably going to be here in your EQ. Yep, there. If you see like two big spikes, you're definitely getting some muddiness in there. So watch out for that. Make sure you only have one song playing the low end at any given time, and that'll really help clean up that mix. Okay, lots going on here. Let's break down what's happening. So we use the build-up from Manifest. I thought that was solid, and then we go into the drop. I was not expecting a mashup with Party Don't Stop. Fun fact, one of my all-time favorite Monster Cat records. But let's see how we can do that better so that everybody listening can make really fun mashes. I know that there's a part in Party Don't Stop where it's just the little twinkly highs that like do 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 do. If you can just grab that section and resample it around so you're not getting all of the bass artifacts from the drop of the whole song, I think that'll go a long way to clean up that part of the mix. And also EQing. If you can pull off even just a shelf of that high end with Manifest, that'll be a really great way for you to make room for those bells, chimes, whatever funky synth sound that is from Party Don't Stop, and get it to sit really nicely in the mix and make a mashup that I can't say that I've heard before, but I'm very interested to see how you can better it. So yeah, I think takeaway from this mix, really watch out for your time usage and your transitions, and make a very specific selection of why you're putting a song in there so that we don't have like 2 minutes of one song, 30-second build up or transition, another 30-second build up. You're losing a lot of time that I think you have a lot of great ideas that you can put into this mix, and you're not going to be able to get them in there if you don't watch your time. So that's my recommendation to you. Solid mix. Can't wait to see the next iteration. Mikey, I think you might be in the chat. We're going to play yours next. So I think going back to something I brought up a few minutes ago, you want to find a way to make the acapella, that's one of the required, like make it yours and make it very clear that you made this part of the mix. And I think you did a great job of doing that at the beginning of this with the filtering, the chopping of Souvenir. The only thing I would recommend, just make it a little bit louder. Use some EQ to cut out the instrumental from the track and get your vocals to really punch through, because I think what you're doing is a neat idea. I just want to be able to hear it.
Yeah, all you wanted was a souvenir, souvenir, every last piece I know. Yeah, all you wanted was
yeah, overall, I don't have much to say about that build-up. I thought that was really nice. You use volume automation, you cut out the lows on the other track coming in, you go into a really heavy Reaper track. I think from a build-up perspective, that was absolutely solid. If you guys are looking how to do build-ups, essentially something like that. You take the track that you're coming out of, you use the lows from that to really go into your next song. You use some low pass, you use some volume automation with the track that's going to be the drop. Use that build up, bring it up, make a nice little curve, and then hit them hard. Use that drop to really let them know that you're coming in. Solid work. Let's keep going. I realize now this is not Reaper and this is Eptic. That's my bad.
Cooperative man in this world is a dead man. If you don't keep your mouth shut, you're gonna be cooperative. But those wanna bite my shit, bite my shit, bite my shit.
Keep on rocking.
Yeah, so overall, I think that tempo transition there was pretty solid. Again, we're talking about like hills and valleys, right? And you're mixed with energy. And I think you did a good job there of starting off like middle-ish range, really raising up into that Eptic drop, coming down a bit. Now we're going into Tynan with Rocket. I think that's what I heard coming in there. And then I'm assuming the drop is going to take it back up. So that was a good way to not have a super low feel, bring it down just a little bit, but then going back up. Okay, I'm kind of on the fence about this mashup. Like, it's very close to production-wise, like being very solid. I just think there's a lot going on, and that just might be my ears listening to it. I feel like you might be able to clean this up a bit, more EQ work on it, just play around with it some more and really get it to punch through. I can see the idea you're going for, and I think the idea is solid. I think it might just be too much.
Keep on rocking.
So, yeah, that was really cool. I like what you did there. I like the inclusion of the other songs. I thought that was neat. I guess just for you, work on the EQ some more. Try to better judge, less is more. I'm gonna preach that until the day I die. But yeah, overall, I thought that really swingy drop, that was really fun. That was original. That was your style. That was a great way to put your stamp on it. So yeah, keep working at it. I'm sure there's more in it, but excited to see the next version. Next up, Jonah Walker. Well, let's go. It is playing, it's just quiet. All right, let's talk about that transition there for a second. So first off, I really love you using played out at the beginning. That's not a vibe that we see too often in the mix contest. Really original. I like that. Going into... what song is playing? Ellis. Yes. Okay. So let's talk about how we can kind of tease that you're going into that in the drop a little bit. And I think we covered this last year when we did the demo submission review. But a great way to do it. Let me think about how to word this for a second, because it gets a little tricky. But if you have a drop and you want to go into another song pretty quickly, which you did here, if you can take an element and ever so subtly hint at it in the drop beforehand, that's a really great way to show your listener that, okay, I realize this song's playing. I want to get into the next song. Let me tease this so the listener is getting ready for that new song. Like, they recognize it, their brain's thinking like, oh, where have I heard that before? And then you hit them with the new drop. I think is a really clever way to go about that. All right, so let's talk about hills and valleys here for a second. So you have that really cool build up from the Ellis record, and it's like funky, 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 and it starts to go up and up. And instead, you kind of took it and faded it out and brought it down to almost nothing to the Jensen Johns track. Artistic style, maybe, but it also, as a listener to this for the first time, it takes me out of the mix. I want the energy to keep going higher because I know that buildup. I've listened to it before. I think it's a really great riser that he uses. And to go the opposite direction kind of left me feeling a little out of it. And the transition itself was very solid. I liked the way that you brought it in. I'm just not sure that in terms of an energy standpoint that it worked to your best favor. Something to think about, your call on how you want to move forward with it.
We brought the sound that shook the ground.
Yeah, see, this is a cool mash with the Infected Mushroom on top of Jensen Johns. Let's see how you can flush that one out.
There is a meaning buried within the sound. Say you chose again a different story, different way. Will you find your happiness, or more of just the same?
So I really liked you bringing in the infected mushroom vocals. I thought that was a really neat twist on it. One thing that I covered earlier, try not to have two vocals layered on top of each other. I want to sing along with the song, and I can't do that if there's two vocals singing along. My brain goes brrr. So think about that one. Think about which one you want as your lead vocal and get the other one out of there. Yeah, so I think that would have been a great time to do a little drop switch, really change up the feel, stand out. So think about ways that you can really utilize time, and I'm going to keep harping on the same things because I see it every year with the mix contest, but time is a big element that I don't think enough people take into account. So think about how you're using your time wisely. Yeah, Dan, if they ask nicely, I'll go a few minutes past the hour because I know that there's a few people in chat that I'm looking at their mixes in the queue right now. All right. Next up, because I'm going to keep going until they tell me to stop. DJ Big Homie Squats, I know that you're in the chat because I'm looking at a message from you right now.
Yeah, all you wanted was a souvenir to remember it all. Yeah, you tore it apart down to every last piece. Yeah, souvenir, another story to tell. And I gotta know how to find happiness in the wrong place. 'Cause it never ends. It's there in all ways. It's evident you never change for our sake.
Talking about singing along, I wanted to sing along to that, but I couldn't because the vocals cut out. So think about it from the listener perspective. If they've already got the vocal hook going, they're ready to sing that next line, and you cut it and there's just nothing, leaves me feel a little sad. So think about different ways to play around with the vocal to still keep it there until it's time to transition it out.
Yeah, all you wanted was a souvenir to remember it all. You tore it apart down to every last piece. Yeah, souvenir, another story to tell. And I gotta know how to find happiness in the wrong place. 'Cause it never ends. It's there in all ways. It's evident you never change for our sake. Falling now. Your little black book ran out of pages.
All right, so let's talk about time again. We look at down there. Yes, there. You see the timing, we're at like 2 minutes and 20 seconds so far. And so it's still the same mashup. I really like the way that it works on top of it, but now you're a fifth of the way in and we haven't really had a transition yet. Unless I missed it in there, correct me if I'm wrong, but nothing really stood out as a, all right, we're switching it up, we're going into something new, let me show off what I'm doing here. So think about that. I think the mash worked pretty well in most places, but think about timing.
Just take it. Baby, just take it.
Oh, I think there was just a big increase on the volume on the vocals, and then it went back down. So watch your levels as well.
Just take it. Just take it. Baby, just take it. You don't have to say those words again.
So yeah, DJ Big Homie Squats. You got solid start to it, but I would really find a way to maybe like cut that in half. So we're only using that for a minute rather than 2.5. You're always able to chop things up, make it shorter, but we really want to see your transitions and your mixing ability, and we can't do that if there aren't many transitions to listen to. Next up, and second to last, we have Quantum. So before we underscore Quantum, my bad. Before we get into this, if you guys have any questions before I head out, put them in the chat now, because I know it's a bit delayed and I want to be able to get to them before we dip out today. So 2 mixes left. Ask me any questions in the chat, and let's get into the next one. I'm a sucker for cinematic intros, I'm sorry. All right, I'm gonna stop you right there. So first off, I really love the inclusion of Silk. I think that was a great way to bring in Nigel Good's Sign, was it? However you pronounce that, C-I-N-E. Great song, I absolutely love it. But let's go into the vocal mashup that you started to put on top of it. I think that you were like a bar or bar and a half ahead on the vocals coming in, because it feels out of time in a weird way. Like the warping is correct on it, but the timing is off. So my recommendation, match up the acapella with the original song, see how it fits in the structure of that song, and then get that into your mashup here. So yeah, let's keep going.
Nothing's gonna bring me down. Still stay up, believe it. Walking on my own cloud. Who cares if I'm dreaming? Nothing's gonna bring me down.
All right, I'm just gonna skip past this part because we've already covered it.
I'll still overturning tables, beat to turn. The moment I think it's the left, Lord, 'cause I'm gonna take my chances. Baby, thinking this is it. Either it's right or wrong, but I've already pictured it, and I wanna do more than
Yeah, so on that transition with the talk vocals, I think you can do a bit more to not just have it cut off. Whether that's reverb, whether that's like repeating the vocals, whether that's a delay on it, but something to make it feel... What's the right... Because we want it to end. We want to get into the next part, yes, but it also felt like there was more coming from it. So if you can try to play around with it, see what you can do. Yeah, I really like you grabbing that part from Dreamers. That's a cool element in the background. All right, so we're like 3 minutes in right now, still pretty ambient. Again, nothing wrong with that at all. I think that's great to really show off your style as a DJ and as a mixer. In years past, I know there's been like real heavy push for the heaviest music you can get in your mix, and I think this year is a fantastic way for us to get away from that. We have Silk Inclusion now. You can really get into the more ambient and emotional music, and I think that's really great. I think for the most part the mixing on here was solid. Just watch your timing on the acapellas that you're using, EQs, and going back to it, I always say the same things on these. People want to sing along to your mixes. If they're hearing talk from Dumu, they want to sing along with it. So if it just stops, they're going to be confused as to why it stopped. So either give a very clear reason in your mix why it stopped, or play around with it some more. Let the people sing along or hear something new, whether that's vocal chops, vocal effects on it, something like that. You'll be able to figure it out. It'll be really cool. All right, last one for the morning, day, evening, wherever you are. We're going into Ario's mix. Here we go. All right, so let's talk about this for a second. Fantastic time to talk about this. So, for those of you that don't know, Xylence the Darkness, the vocals were grabbed from Splice. You can find them on Splice, and you can make your own mashups with it, and now you have an acapella that a lot of people probably won't have. Check it out. Great usage of that. So one thing with this, and this is just me getting picky because I want these mixes to be good, on the vocal chops in underlying the drop, when it goes darkness, 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 try to find a way to still have the top end on them, the low end out, but the pitch drop down. That way we can still hear them clearly and it's not muddying up that mid to low frequency. All right, so let's talk about those vocal chops from Grant. I think he did a really cool job of playing with them near the end of those 4 8-bar segments. They're just a little hard to hear, and a few ways you can go about making them more present in the mix to stand out. You can EQ the track in the background. You can throw a compressor on the Grant tracks. You can even raise the volume and just make sure that you're not hitting your limiter too hard. There's a chance that when you do that, it might sound a bit too much, and if that's the case, I would recommend taking out the vocal chops, because while it's a cool effect, again, less is more. Like, we want to hear a clean sounding mix, and I think it's a good idea in theory. It just might not work in practice, and that's the beauty of these mix submissions, is everybody's making it on their computer. You can play around with a lot of different elements, a lot of different ideas, and find the one that works best. kind of on the fence about that transition. I think with a bit more reverb, because it's not like you're taking the energy out of it too much. I think it just feels a bit sudden. So with some reverb and really making it more of a ambient, like here's some mystical sound or whatever, I think that transition might actually work. But play around with it some more. You'll be able to nail it down. So yeah, that was cool. I hope the rest of your mix has stuff like that. That was really fun. Very original. Made the song your own, made it stand out. Yeah, that was neat. I think that is a good place in your mix to cut off for the day. But yeah, as always, let's go over some broad things that all of you can put into your mixes and we can take away from the ones that we listened to today. One, EQ. EQ is always your friend. You're using it. We're making studio mixes for the mix contest. You have full control over your EQ. It's not just 3 knobs. You got full spectrums. Play around with it. Make all your mashups and your transitions fit in with one another. Make sure that you're not overlaying too many of the same frequencies. It'll really help it sound clean. Warping. If a track is in time and in key, unwarp it. It doesn't need to be warped, and it'll sound way better, and your limiter will thank you. I promise. I didn't know that when I submitted. I know that now. Another thing, think about the hills and valleys. We want to make sure that if you're building energy, you keep it there for a little bit. If you're going down in energy, you want to keep it there for a little bit. Like let the listener fully experience whatever emotions you want them to feel through your mix. And finally, have fun with it. That's the whole point of this mix contest. We want to see what you guys have in your heads. We're really excited to listen to all of the mixes that we haven't even heard yet, that are still yet to come in. All the ones that have submitted, thank you all so much. I know we didn't listen to every single mix in full today. Do not worry. The judges will go through and listen to them all in full at a later date. You will be good there. Let's talk about a few housekeeping items. Make sure you head on over to a mix contest, monstercat.com/mixcontest2021. I'm going to put it in chat. And you're going to see how delayed it is. I'm really messing this one up. Here we go. There we go. That's the one. Okay. So on here, you'll find a full rundown of everything you need to know about the mix contest. How long submissions last for, what you need to put in your mix, what the judges are looking for. Let's talk about prizes for a second. We can't disclose what the prizes are at the moment, but if you've seen previous seasons, you know the prizes are pretty solid. I still use mine, so you're going to want to get in on this. Next week, we have a very special guest joining us for submission review stream, and it's Protostar. Protostar is going to come on here with me. We're going to be reviewing your mixes, so make sure you get them in. Very excited to see what you guys come up with. To all of the people that submitted and that we listened to today, thank you so much. I really enjoyed listening to these. If it seems like I'm being a stickler about it, it's because I care, and now I sound like a mother. But yeah, honestly, I'm really impressed with what you guys are putting out this year. Every single year, we seem to go up and up in the level just to become a finalist to begin with. And I think that's really great, and you guys should be really proud of yourselves. So I think that's where we're going to end it today. Unless you guys have any further questions, I'll be happy to answer them later in Discord or in the chat here. Reach out to me. But yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful evening, day, morning, wherever you are. Have a great rest of your time. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.
let me think for a second now. Catch my breath. Yeah, I gotta slow down. Cause when you're near, everything that I planned just goes away.